All right, welcome everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into the teachings of Eckhart Tolle.
Oh, this is going to be good.
It is. We're using excerpts from transcripts of his YouTube videos and his Wikipedia page to really get a sense of his core ideas.
Yeah, and I think what's really interesting is we're not just looking at his big famous books like The Power of Now.
Right, right.
We're going a little deeper.
Yeah. So even if you're familiar with his work, hopefully you'll find something new here today.
Definitely. And it's always fascinating to see how someone's thinking evolves over time, you know?
Absolutely.
Like how have his ideas developed or maybe even shifted since he first became well known?
Exactly. So get ready to explore presence, ego, even spiritual awakening, all through the lens of Eckhart Tolle.
You know, one of the things that always strikes me about Tolle is how he manages to make these complex spiritual ideas so accessible.
I know, right?
Like he doesn't get lost in jargon or obscure language.
Yeah, he's so good at using simple language and relatable examples to get his points across.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he's speaking directly to you no matter what your background is.
Right. It's not just for the spiritual elite or anything.
Yeah, exactly. He's really talking to everyone, anyone looking for a bit more peace in their lives, you know?
That's so true. And I think that's what makes his work so impactful. Like, you don't have to be on a mountaintop retreat to benefit from it.
Right. It's for everyday life.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about finding more presence and peace in the midst of all the chaos.
I love that. You know, speaking of presence, there's this one quote from Tolle that I always come back to.
Oh, yeah. Which one?
He says, "Through the present moment, you have access to the power of life itself."
Ooh, that's a good one. What do you think he means by that?
Well, I think he's talking about tapping into this incredible source of energy and potential that's always available to us right here and now.
Okay.
But so often we miss it because we're stuck in our heads, you know?
Right. We're either dwelling on the past or worrying about the future.
Exactly. And Tolle is saying that true joy and fulfillment, that power, it comes from fully experiencing this moment.
It makes you wonder how much we miss out on when we're not fully present, right?
Oh, absolutely. We're constantly distracted, missing out on the richness of life.
And Tolle argues that a lot of this tendency to get lost in thought, it's driven by the ego.
The egos, yes. Such a central concept in his work.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What exactly does he mean by the ego? Because it's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, it can mean different things to different people.
Yeah.
But for Tolle, he's really specific. He describes the ego as this false sense of self that we create
Yeah.
based on all these fleeting things, like
Mhm.
our thoughts, our emotions, our possessions, even the need for external validation, you know?
So we're basically building our identity on shaky ground.
Yeah, exactly. Like a house built on sand.
Yeah, and because those things are constantly changing,
Right.
it leads to a sense of insecurity,
Insecurity. Yes.
suffering.
Absolutely. We become so attached to this little me narrative that we lose touch with our true essence.
Oh, I like that. The little me versus our true being.
Exactly. It's like we create this limited version of ourselves instead of recognizing the vastness of who we really are.
I see, yeah. And then he takes it even a step further with the concept of the pain body, right?
Oh, yes, the pain body. This is where it gets really interesting.
It's kind of a heavy concept, but I think it's so important.
It is. It is.
So can you explain it for those who may not be familiar?
Basically, the pain body is this accumulation of past emotional pain that we carry around
Okay.
unconsciously.
Yeah.
And it acts like this shadow self, influencing our thoughts and reactions in ways we don't even realize.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've definitely noticed how past experiences can sometimes color my perceptions in the present.
Oh, totally.
It's like I'm reacting from a place of old hurt rather than responding to the situation at hand.
That's exactly it. It's like this unconscious baggage we're carrying.
Yeah. And it can really sabotage our relationships too.
Oh, absolutely. Tolle talks about how we project our pain body onto our partners,
Yeah, that makes sense.
leading to conflict and tension.
Right. It's like those moments when you get triggered and you just react defensively.
Yeah, and you're not even thinking clearly.
You're not present at all.
Right, you're just operating on autopilot, letting the pain body run the show.
It's like we're prisoners of our past in a way.
In a way, yes. But Tolle says we don't have to be.
Okay, so how do we break free from this cycle? Because it sounds like a pretty daunting task.
Well, he believes the key lies in cultivating conscious awareness.
Okay.
It's about becoming the observer of our thoughts and emotions without judgment.
So creating that space.
Yes, creating space in the mind to allow those thoughts and feelings to just pass through.
Without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. It's not about silencing the mind completely, which is pretty impossible.
Right.
but it's about not being ruled by it.
So it's that ability to detach and observe that helps us see things more clearly.
Precisely. As we develop this awareness, we start to disidentify from the ego and the pain body.
Yeah, we're not so attached to that little me's story anymore.
Right. And that's where we can start to connect with our true nature, our pure being.
This sounds a lot like mindfulness, which is so popular these days.
Yeah, there are definitely
Is
parallels.
that what Tolle's getting at?
Well, I think Tolle's teachings go a bit deeper than just mindfulness.
Okay.
Like, mindfulness is often focused on present moment awareness through practices like meditation.
Right.
But Tolle takes it a step further by really exploring the nature of ego and spiritual awakening.
I see, yeah. So it's about shifting from identifying with this limited sense of self
Yes,
to recognizing our connection to something much larger.
exactly. It's about realizing that we're not these isolated individuals,
Right.
but part of this interconnected web of being.
Now, when we talk about spiritual awakening, it can sound kind of intimidating.
Yeah, like this big mystical experience.
Right, reserved for monks or something.
Exactly. But Tolle doesn't present it that way at all.
I see.
He suggests that spiritual awakening isn't about achieving some far-off state of enlightenment.
Now,
It's about recognizing a truth that's already present within us right now.
so it's not about adding something new,
No.
but rather stripping away the layers that are obscuring our true nature.
You got it. It's like removing the veil.
And as we shed those layers, we start to experience life differently.
Oh, absolutely. With a renewed sense of clarity, peace, joy.
Okay, now this is where I start to see the real world implications.
Yes.
It's not just some abstract spiritual concept.
Right.
It actually impacts how we live our lives.
Exactly. So how might this shift in consciousness actually play out in our daily lives?
Let's get specific. What about relationships?
Relationships. Well, Tolle believes that true love comes from recognizing that spark of consciousness that exists in ourselves and in everyone else. He tells the story about feeling this profound connection with a food delivery person.
Just a regular, everyday interaction.
Exactly. But he was fully present in that moment.
And he was able to see the being in the other person.
Yes. And that created this powerful connection.
And it makes you think about how many opportunities for genuine connection we miss because we're not paying attention.
All the time. We're so caught up in our own heads, you know?
Right. We're judging, evaluating.
Instead of truly seeing the person in front of us.
I love that example.
Yeah.
Now, another area where I'm curious to hear Tolle's perspective is on manifestation.
Oh, interesting. You mean that idea that we can create our own reality?
Exactly. Because it's a concept that's become really popular, but I'm not sure it always aligns with a more spiritual approach.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like sometimes it can get a bit materialistic.
Right. Like, how can I manifest a new car kind of thing?
Exactly. But Tolle's view is quite different. He believes that true abundance isn't about material accumulation or
Okay.
manipulating the universe to get what we want.
So it's not about forcing things to happen.
No, it's more about aligning with the flow of life, tapping into the creative power of the universe, and allowing our unique gifts to unfold naturally.
So it's about surrendering to something bigger than ourselves.
Yes. It's about trusting in the wisdom of the universe and allowing things to unfold in their own time and in their own way.
I like that. It's about trusting the process.
Exactly. And Tolle suggests that when we operate from a place of inner peace and clarity,
Yeah.
we naturally attract what serves our highest good.
It's like we're letting go of the control
Yes.
and allowing things to flow more naturally.
Exactly. And I think that's where true abundance lies.
Wow, this is really shifting my perspective on manifestation. It's less about striving and more about trusting.
And I think that's a much more peaceful way to live.
I agree. And it seems like we're just scratching the surface of Tolle's teachings here.
Oh, we've only just begun.
There's so much more to explore.
So much more, like how do we actually put these ideas into practice in our daily lives?
Right. What are some concrete techniques for cultivating presence?
And how can we bring this awareness into our relationships and our work?
And ultimately, how can we use these teachings to create a better world?
All great questions, and we'll be diving into those in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we talked about all those big ideas from Eckhart Tolle, but I'm ready to get practical.
Me too.
How do we actually, bring these ideas into our daily lives? You know, presence and ego and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, because life gets busy, right?
It does.
It's not all like mountaintop retreats and stuff.
Right, exactly.
So Tolle actually offers some very tangible techniques for cultivating presence.
Okay, I like that.
And one of the simplest but most powerful is becoming aware of our breath.
Okay, that sounds a bit like meditation.
It is, in a way.
But to be honest, I've always struggled with meditation.
Yeah.
Like, I sit down and my mind just races.
Oh, I know that feeling.
To-do lists and everything I need to get done just pops into my head.
Yeah, the mind can be a busy place.
It is.
But you know what Tolle says? It's not about silencing the mind completely.
Yep.
That's pretty impossible, actually.
Right.
It's more about observing those thoughts without getting carried away by them.
Okay, so not judging myself for having the thought.
Exactly.
Just letting them be there.
Exactly. Just noticing them.
Okay.
And he suggests focusing on the sensation of each breath,
Okay.
like the rise and fall of your chest,
Okay.
as a way to anchor yourself in the present moment.
So it's about creating that space between my thoughts and my reaction.
Yes, creating that space.
Yeah.
You're not just reacting automatically to every thought.
Interesting.
And the best part is you can do this anywhere,
Okay.
anytime.
You don't need to be sitting on a cushion in a silent room or anything.
Nope. You can be waiting in line at the grocery store,
Oh, okay.
or stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
or even just walking to a meeting.
So just taking a few conscious breaths.
Exactly. Just bringing your attention to your breath
Okay.
can make a huge difference.
It's like those little pockets of presence throughout the day.
Exactly. Those little moments add up.
I like that.
And you know, another practice that Tolle recommends
Yeah.
is appreciating the simple things around us.
Oh, yeah.
Like really taking the time to savor them.
Okay.
You know, it could be the warmth of the sun on your skin, or the taste of your coffee in the
I
morning,
love coffee.
or even just hearing the sound of laughter.
It's like we get so caught up in the big things
Yes.
that we forget about the little things.
Exactly. And those little things, those are what make life rich.
Right.
By shifting our attention to the goodness that's already present,
Okay.
we start to shift out of that scarcity mindset.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know, that feeling of like, I need more, I need more.
Yes. Constantly chasing after more.
Right. And Tully's saying, no, you already have enough.
It's like we're conditioned to always focus on what's missing
Yes.
instead of what we already have.
And that's the ego's favorite game, you know,
Oh, yeah.
to keep us feeling like we're not enough.
That we need more.
More, more, more. But Tolle reminds us that true fulfillment is available to us right now.
If we just choose to see it.
Exactly. It's a choice.
Okay, so this is starting to make sense to me.
Good.
I can see how these practices could really help us cultivate presence.
Yeah.
But I'm also wondering about how all of this plays out in our relationships.
Ooh, relationships. Yeah.
Because that's a big part of our lives.
Huge.
And I think it can be really challenging to bring this awareness of presence and
Yeah.
ego into how we interact with others.
Yeah, it can be.
So any tips for navigating that?
Well, remember that anecdote that Tolle shared about connecting with the food delivery person?
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
It's like, that's a perfect example of what he's talking about.
Okay.
When we can let go of our preconceived notions and judgments
Okay.
and just see the being in the other person,
Okay.
our interactions become so much more authentic and meaningful.
It's like we're dropping the masks, right?
Exactly. We're meeting each other from a place of true presence.
I like that.
And this can be so healing, especially in difficult relationships.
Okay.
Imagine approaching a conflict with a loved one, not from a place of defensiveness or blame,
Yeah.
but from a place of curiosity and understanding.
Wow. That would definitely change the dynamic.
Right.
It's like it would be so much harder to get caught up in those reactive patterns.
Exactly. You're not letting the pain body dictate your actions.
It's like you're creating space to respond differently.
Yes, with more awareness, more compassion.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing.
It is.
But, I wonder if it's realistic to expect people to change their ingrained patterns of behavior.
You're right. It's not always easy.
It's like, can Tolle's teachings really make a difference on a larger scale?
That's a big question.
It is.
You know, there's so much negativity and division in the world right now. It's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Totally.
But Tolle believes that even small acts of kindness and compassion can make a difference.
So it's not about trying to change the whole world all at once?
No, it starts with each of us.
With our own individual transformation.
Exactly. And as more people awaken to their true nature,
Okay.
it creates a ripple effect.
Oh, I like that. The ripple effect.
Yeah, it spreads outwards.
So it's like we're all contributing to this collective shift in consciousness.
Precisely. And I think that's what gives me hope.
Me too.
You know, that even in the midst of all the chaos, there's this possibility for a better world.
A more peaceful world.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how individual transformation is connected to social
It
transformation.
is. They're intertwined.
It's not just about our own personal growth.
Right.
It's about contributing to something much larger.
Exactly. And that's what we'll be exploring further in the next part of our deep dive.
I can't wait. So we were talking about that link between like individual awakening, personal growth and all that, and like
Yeah.
a larger kind of social transformation.
Right. How those two things connect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a big idea
It is. It is.
and super important in Tolle's work.
Okay, so break it down for me.
Yeah. Okay, so basically, Tolle's suggesting that as more individuals become like truly awake to their true nature,
Okay.
more present, less identified with their egos and all that,
Yeah.
then like a shift in collective consciousness naturally starts to happen.
It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah, exactly. Like one person's shift in awareness kind of inspires another and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
And eventually that leads to like a more conscious and compassionate society as a whole.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like we can't just focus on changing external systems and structures.
Right.
We have to address the root cause of suffering, which, like, according to Tolle, comes from that egoic consciousness.
Exactly. It's funny. It makes
Yeah.
me think about all the times we try to solve problems through protests or political movements or, social reforms.
Yeah.
But we're not really addressing the underlying, like, patterns of thought and behavior.
Right, the stuff that's creating the problems in the first place.
Exactly. And Tolle's really challenging us to look at that.
To go deeper.
Yeah, to go deeper and address those ego-driven impulses that are just perpetuating, like, conflict and suffering and all that.
Okay, so paint me a picture.
Yeah.
What would a society full of people embracing Tolle's teachings actually look like? What would it feel like?
Well, imagine a world where people are less reactive,
Okay.
less driven by like fear and greed,
Yeah.
where people are more in tune with like the interconnectedness of all life.
Okay.
I think there would be more peace,
Yeah.
conflicts would be resolved like peacefully and compassionately.
Sounds pretty utopian.
It does, doesn't it?
But is it really possible?
Yeah.
Like the world can feel pretty dark sometimes.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's so much negativity and division.
Right, and Tolle acknowledges that,
Yeah.
but he also has this amazing sense of hope,
I like that.
He sees humanity at this like critical turning point where we have the potential to like either succumb to the forces of ego and destruction or awaken to a new level of consciousness.
So it's like we have a choice.
Exactly. It's our choice.
It's empowering to think that we all have a role to play in this.
Absolutely.
Even small acts of kindness and compassion can contribute to this shift.
Exactly. Every little bit counts.
So what would you say is the main takeaway for our listeners today, for those who are just starting to explore Tolle's work?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing to remember is that the power to change your life, it's within you.
Okay.
It's about awakening to the power of the present moment,
Yeah.
transcending the limitations of your ego
Right.
and embracing your true nature as like a being of pure consciousness.
That's beautiful. And like we've been talking about, it's not just about personal transformation, it's about contributing to a collective awakening.
Exactly. It's all connected.
It's been amazing exploring all of this with you today.
Likewise. Always a good time.
Before we wrap up, is there a final question we can leave our listeners with? Something to, like, ponder.
Ooh, how about this? How might your life, your relationships, and your contribution to the world change if you committed to living each day from a place of presence, awareness, and connection to your true nature?
That's a powerful question. I know I'm going to be thinking about that one. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Eckhart Tolle, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep diving.